Here are your hosts, Brian Kratkin and Andy Pope.
And Blake, producer Blake, phone today as well. Finally, we got Blake back. Blake's been absolutely killing it with helping associations with their podcasting, with their virtual events. Folks, this has absolutely helped us. We're a network of advocacy innovators and practitioners that have been in the business for many, many years. This show is remote, as many of our COVID shows have been. We're the folks who are providing this for free. We're not charging anything. Some people around town are charging for things. We're not. I don't believe in it. And I also don't believe in buttoning down things. I believe in deconstructing things. I think too many times we try to do PowerPoints and webinars and all that. And I actually think it inhibits our ability to think outside the box a little bit. And this show is really about, today with Brian and Blake, is really about what associations are doing around virtual conferencing and their podcast strategies. So content, where we're at, what people are doing. And I'm glad, Blake in particular is back on the show, Brian, because
Blake is back.
He's back, but he's been building this stuff for folks. So it's not just a couple of service providers in the space or a couple of practitioners, doing stuff. Blake's been working with multiple organizations, including FDRA and my organization on different things. So I'm glad to have him back to pick his brain, right?
Brain pick.
That's right. Blake, we got a list of questions here. Tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing lately, right? And some of the groups you've been helping, some of the tools you've been doing. And then I literally have a list of questions from folks about what do I need? What are the checklists? What should I think about? Et cetera, et cetera. So let's kick this off.
We did a ton of podcasts and virtual meetings. We kind of act as a consultant role. I've been finding we come in because everyone has different requirements, and some people don't even know what the requirements were. Andy and I were talking about that before we came on. When this first went down, we were 2 weeks out from a conference with the American Bar Association and their antitrust section. And that then led us to try to make that all, first it was going to be a hybrid, virtual, and then everything got shut down. And then it was, let's plan this. And I have over my desk here, I have a sign that says, with the Ghostbusters thing with the line through it that says, because that's the way we've always done it.
I need one.
Yeah, we should make that and sell that because it's so true. I find like having 4 panelists on a virtual panel right there. But by the time the introductions are done, you're 10 minutes in. And here's a statistic that you might find of interest. So if we made a video and it was a half hour long and it got 300 or 400 downloads or streams or views, it would probably have 2,000 podcast listens because people are doing it on their 5th and 4th dog walk. And while they're exercising or going on their new running routine that I see all these people that are running that have never gone running before. So we've learned a lot in a short period of time, working with the Bar Association, working with the FDRA, working with everything on how to record to what does content look like in this new era, how to make a stinking virtual background look good, like everything. So, and how to distribute it. I know Bright Cove now. I know IBM. I know their video platforms, Com Partners. We know tons of them, and what's right for you.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so Blake, here are the questions that I have, right? Folks are asking this all day, all night. They want to know, look, I have never done this before, because most of the advocacy associations, as Andy said, right, they've never planned something like this before. So the tools may not be where we necessarily want them to be, but they'll get there. What are the 3 things that they should ask themselves first before they even get off the ground, right? They say, look, we need to have a virtual event on X, or we have our fly-in and it's going to move to everybody together. What are the questions they need to ask themselves first?
Oh, well, man, I would say if try to pare it down and think about how you're going to go. If it was before it was a 2-day event, is it still going to be a 2-day event?
Okay.
And then how would you modify it? Because I see a lot of people in the conference world thought it was a 2-day event, and I bet Andy's going to chime in on this. It's now you might offer that 2-day event, but that content can be forever now.
Yes.
Right.
So you can think about it as sort of evergreen content that might be exclusive while you're watching it, and then you can, and then how do you want to distribute that going into the future? Will it be behind the paywall? Are we going to build a separate website? Are we going to have an iframe behind the paywall that goes? Are we going to do single sign-on? So there's a lot of questions that what was the exact question again?
Well, I think I'll chime in. Because I have some thoughts on this too. I think the starting point for this is to reverse your situation and put yourself in the audience's shoes, right? So the first thing is what do people want to engage with? What kind of content types? Like, obviously you're doing an event on a topic or a range of topics, and that's valuable content. So we know we want to do this. We know we want to talk about these things, and we know we want to have these speakers, but should it be a podcast that you drop exclusively? Should it be a video? How long should the videos be? Because I think if you're going more than 10 minutes, you're losing people. To Blake's point on the day, does somebody have a whole day dedicated where they can sit down and watch a live stream for 8 hours?
No.
Do they have 2 days? Absolutely not. So I think when you take, obviously at FDRA, we had a lot of 1-day events. We actually pared down our 2-day and 3-day events down the last couple of years because people don't have time, even in physical person, to spend that amount of mental energy because everybody's so busy doing their real jobs. So training is important, professional development is important, the topics are important, but I also got to do these things. So they're sitting down, you want them to watch something while they're also doing their work at the same time. It doesn't work that way.
The other question, Andy, that we would ask was, why did people attend your event before?
Yeah.
Yep.
Did they go for continuing education? Did they go for schmoozing? Did they go for booze? Like, why, and I'm being sort of serious here. Like, was the after party the real reason people went? Was it the keynote speaker?
I agree.
And so
you're asking them why they went. Yeah. So reverse engineering it, right? Not putting on the event and then telling people what they want to hear, but asking folks and really introspection there of saying, why did people come to the event before? And then deciding the tools and the content that goes along with that plan.
Yes. For instance, like it might just be as simple. If it was just a schmooze event, here's a model we came up with that was kind of neat. The software platform Remo, which does the virtual receptions, but don't just throw the reception. So we had this one point where we made this video on, I think it was some sort of antitrust law topic, but you had to watch the video in order to go to the Remo. So there was something to talk about once you got there.
That's really smart.
So it wasn't just like, hey, everyone go. It was, and then we did another one where we played a clip in the Remo, or a 5-minute clip, and then even in the I actually probably have it sitting right here on the iPad. It would say, let's discuss, and then we'd throw everybody back in to discuss. And we'd also say, I keep waiting for Remo to put the function of scatter, where it just moves you to a random table.
Me too.
But interesting.
It's getting better every week though, because initially we had a problem with cell phones, and now people can use cell phones.
Yep.
Now the broadcast can be recorded. So they're building, now that there's investment and there's money that they're making, now they can build in all that stuff. And I would say, and every week it gets a little bit better, but I think your strategy is interesting because we're just throwing out a random networking time, either coffee break at 10 a.m. to 11 or in the evening. And, I do think the Zoom fatigue is somewhat real. I think it's kind of funny, but I do think it's real where people are like, I'm tired of engaging, right? I'm tired of networking a little bit. Like, so if we figured out we have to have content, we have to have a value add for somebody to come in here and update from DC or something like that while they're in the networking platform or beforehand. So what we did one day was we had a 2 p.m. call. Every Tuesday at 2, we do an industry-wide call. Several hundred executives get on. And at the end of the call, we sent a link out for the networking. It's like, okay, everybody, we're going to go network now and talk about these things in small groups. And that actually increased the number of people. But if you just did the event on its own and just said, hey, we're doing a networking event, we got 20 or 30 people. That was it. So it wasn't, there's got to be a value into what you're doing. And then I guess too, I'll jump in and ask you, Blake, but like the platforms, I think everybody's looking at different platforms. Like, what do we run our virtual event on? And I demoed 5 or 6 different platforms.
Yeah, what'd you look at?
Oh God, you're putting me on the spot. I forget that there were some weird names, but like Cvent has one, and like all, you know, so the
Hopin.
Hopin. I did Hopin. What was interesting about Hopin was the founder did my demo, and he was like yawning the whole time. So I was just
Well,
like,
I can't blame him. He's probably tired.
So, but my problem with all the different platforms has been, and it's not their fault, it's the same thing with Remo, is no one invested in these things because they were kind of on the periphery, right? They weren't really the main thing. There were things we were doing in addition to these physical events. So I have not seen one platform that does everything that I want it to do. The other challenge, and you can talk about these things too, Blake, but the other challenge was the platforms not only cost money, but they take money off my attendance fees. So like Hopin was going to take 15% off every registration of what I had. And I need the money. And I understand you know, it's easier to get these platforms because it's kind of plug and play and you build it and all this stuff and you get some features here and there. But as I sat in my chair looking at revenue, and then I sat in the attendees chair, I said, what's the difference if I just build the damn site myself and figure out my own content drip strategy, how I'm going to do it, how they're going to engage with it. So that's what we're doing right now. Before we get into that, Blake, I just want to hear from you, like what platforms you've looked at. What do you think about what's happening out there? What are you guys using to run ABA and other people's virtual conferences?
What I think is, I'll go into the platforms, but what I think is interesting is how, again, I said it before, when you think of events, people are thinking of it as this thing that happens and then is gone. We called it in the production world dumpster art. So like, but now when we look at stuff, the question we ask is could this be an opportunity to slowly introduce a learning management system in and invest in a better learning management system for your content? We had another organization and I will go to platforms that made their virtual event around the release of their new podcast. When it comes to platforms, obviously Bright Cove is great. And here's what I'm talking about when I say your long-term LMS strategy. Okay, we made these videos. Where are we going to put them? Is the attendee, where do you want to watch this stuff?
Right.
So Bright Cove offers the ability, you could even have an app built on a Fire Stick. So now I can, you could watch content in your living room the same way you do Netflix for real. And, and that for most associations is a mind F right now. It's like, wow, that sounds, but if people are going to continue to do this, wouldn't you kind of, for certain organizations, maybe you would rather sit on your couch and have the app like this and watch it on your 50-inch HD screen.
And then Uber eats popcorn to all the attendees at your event.
So Bright Cove has been successful in conjunction, of course, with for podcasting Libsyn. Of course, we mentioned Remo. If you want to go completely nerd out, Altispace for Oculus is killer. I've been one conference in that. If you want to go to the VR world, I just got my Oculus Quest, by the way. We had what would I say, the Bright Cove. Oh, and then the IBM has a small streaming. It's much more affordable. The IBM system where you can do embed videos and it works pretty well for live streaming. It's the old Ustream system. If you remember that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look. So we talk to a lot of folks all the time, right? Getting back to the other side of things is just simply saying a lot of folks are like, look, I have a meeting, and you told me about this one, Blake, when we spoke last week. Was just somebody wanted to do an awards ceremony. And it was just this fascinating idea of let's move past what you may have done before, and we may get back to that, but that doesn't necessarily play well with what we're trying to accomplish today. What kind of sort of thinking are you doing with clients when they say something like that? What are you saying back to them? What are you saying to them to say, think about it this way and not that way?
I go back to what I said earlier, which is when you had if you're using the award ceremony, why did people attend? And so when we planned this award ceremony, did they really care? I used to go to the Addies all the time, and I went for, again, the booze and the hang out and see other friends of mine. Hell, I was in the music business, so other composers I don't normally see. So if that's the case, let's keep the actual award stuff to a 2-minute little Remo. Andy and Blake take the screen. Hey, Andy, guess who won best software platform? Spark Influence.
Oh.
Oh, isn't that great? All right.
Oh.
We have twice.
Yeah. Brian Fratkin, come on in. And then Brian lets Fratkin in. I'm sorry, Andy lets Brian Fratkin in. And you give a 1 minute acceptance speech. And then now let's all go back to the tables and talk about how much we wish we'd won that award. And he didn't deserve it or whatever it is.
Right.
So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
no, it does. It's saying to people, look, like, yes, again, think about why you're doing the event, what it means to those folks, what did they get out of it, why did they sign up? All of those questions you should be asking yourself at the beginning before you even get into event planning, whatever that may be, whether it's the virtual fly-in, whether it's the award ceremony, whether it's whatever it is. Get those questions answered first, and it'll help you guide you to where you need to be.
I'll give you another really cool example, and Andy, you could probably maybe use this. One of the events we planned, the meeting, it was for a division of the ABA, and the meeting would normally be like $5,000 for you to come to walk into, right? So who's going to go to that? Equity partners. That's who's going to be walking in. No law firm is going to send an associate lawyer, 27-year-old lawyer, to that event. That said, now they may still have the big exclusive event, but they've recalibrated the way they think, and they're thinking now, wow, we could do small little events for $200-300, and young lawyers get to hang out with some seasoned professionals in an affordable way, and we make a little money, and it helps the membership, gives membership value. I think that to a lot of the members, to a lot of them was like, wow, we never thought of it this way, where we have 2 or 3 important lawyers come in and they do some remote conferences and they do some Zoom meetings. We make some videos, and then the young lawyers get to interface with the old guard, if you will. And I think that was what they saw was, and there's one more thought on this. What they saw was the older, the more seasoned lawyers didn't show up to the virtual conference, but tons of the young lawyers did.
Mm-hmm.
So
to that point, I mean, it is really about is knowing the audience and what the value is for the audience, and then developing the whole thing around it. So for us, we've been, we do a lot of events targeting on shoe sourcing or shoe supply chains or shoe retail. Those are like one-day events where we are now making them a series over 4 days where we drip out the content. So we drip out an interview with a sponsor or with a executive, and it will go out and it will go live at 9 a.m. So you can hop in and watch it instantly if you want to, or if you don't want to, that's fine. And then we'll have another one at 11, another at 1. So it's constant throughout the day over those days. So you allow people to jump in and engage as they want to. You keep it short and sweet. And then to Blake's point, my play is, we used to charge $500 for an event, something like that. Now it's going to be $99 because I just think cognitively it makes sense. We don't know what the market is to price it right. So I'm just going to say $99. And then your strategy changes on the marketing side from just US people to global. So all of a sudden I can expand and make my money back in revenue. And then to Blake's point, which is the biggest I think there's 2 huge opportunities doing it. One is you get better speakers, because you can't always get somebody to fly in where you want them to fly into. So you can go and get a CEO, or you can get an executive, or you can get whomever you want and say, we're going to record an interview. I've got 2 weeks. Tell me when it works. And they'll have time and you can do the interview and do it that way, or a live stream or something. And I'll get to that in a second. But then it's like, that's one opportunity. The other opportunity is the content I put on that site will be there for 6 months and it'll be fresh, and I'll update it here and there, but I'll constantly run a marketing campaign out as an advertisement to go in and get the data. So it won't be so much about hearing the speakers and all that. That's all in there too. But if you want the data on X, it's going to be here. It's $99 plus you get so it's a change in the marketing strategy of what's happening.
You're constantly upselling?
Constantly upset. It's changing the dynamic of what you're selling, the value proposition.
And for $99, how long do I get to access the content?
About 6 months.
It is 6 months. Okay.
Because then after 6 months, sitting in the person's shoes, the value of the stuff changes, because business environments changes so fast now that I don't think it can sit there for a year and be valuable. So it may sit there and someone may buy it. I'm not going to sell it after 6 months. At that point, we'll go on to the next thing. But then you're thinking of revenue streams over 6 month period instead of that. The only difference will be, and it'll still be there in terms of value 6 months later, but during the week, it's that content drip that's driving people. There's a timeliness. All this is coming out. It's exclusive. It's here. Plus, we're going to do like 2 webinars with really high-end keynotes to drive people together, engagement, and then one networking forum directly after one of those webinars.
So let me ask you something, Andy, about your pricing thoughts, because I'm not the one who sets prices on these things.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of when I won't go into the example. Everyone seems to have dropped the price.
Yeah.
But let's say it was $500, and yes, maybe you make it up. But what if you went into a Remo, and I'm just using your example, your industry, and Phil Knight was at one table, and Cliff was at another table, and you had really high. So I get a 6 or a 5-on-1 with Phil Knight. What's that worth?
Right.
It's more than $500.
Agree. I completely agree on that kind of, I mean, that's outside the box thinking, which I think is great. But like for us as a small association, we have limited staff, we have limited resources.
Totally.
And time. And so the pricing for us, I mean, I could charge $500 again, and I would get some people, and I would probably make the same revenue. There'd be 50 instead of 500. But the other challenge is, and I think what we're really getting at on the show today is, we're becoming media companies, and it's about branding right now, right? And so I think that's continually the problem with grassroots, and it's the problem with other grassroots associations that help manage everything. There's so much focus on technical knowledge and compliance and doing all this crap, and I get it, but to be honest with you, if you're not transforming your grassroots and your association to a media company right now, you may not be around in a couple of years, because it's not just the opportunity, it is the value to the people right now. There is not really a reason that we need to be lobbying Congress right now. There's not a lot that's going to happen in an election year. There's going to be one more stimulus bill. We don't know when that is and what it looks like. But to be honest, even that is about branding and keeping, on the front foot, letting staffers know that you're there, but say thank you instead of making an ask. It's ridiculous to make an ask right now. Like, it's foolish. And if I was a staffer, which I was for 9 years, and I'm sitting there watching my constituents suffer, and you're coming up and asking me about HR 442, I mean, it's just tone deaf right now. So for these events, this is the value, man. And if you're not doing professional development or you're not doing training, just start interviewing people in your industry and sharing best practices. Start a YouTube channel, start a podcast, do something. But you have to be really creative. You have to think long-term. So like your typical thing is this, and we're done. Well, now you got 6 months to obtain it. Now but then also, like, we're keeping all our sponsors on because I've been upfront. I've been aggressive. We do annual packages with our sponsors. So we give them event sponsorships. We give them some ads. We went back and we basically said, this is tough for everybody. We're going to give you guys free runs in our newsletters. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do more webinars. We're going to do all this stuff, just like I think a lot of people have been. But because of that, they stuck with us as we start this digital strategy, right? They want to be in front of people selling things and shaking hands, and we can't do that. Right. But they trust us because we have a relationship that we can build these events, give them value, get them in front of people, and huge opportunities for all this stuff. And I know I'm going off.
But I guess the way we've always done it, or the way we've always thought about it, the only thing that caught my mind, and I see it everywhere, it's not just you, Andy, is like this event is worth less. And then I question, like, well, hold on, why? Why does it have to be worth? Couldn't it be worth more?
It is worth more, but there's no money to pay for it out of the coffers of the businesses.
Perhaps, but they don't have to fly anywhere anymore. They don't have to stay in a hotel.
We're at the point now where the only travel in the footwear industry, and in other industries too, is the only travel you're going to get is if you're selling a pair of shoes to a merchant, to a retailer, right? So there's no travel budget for the rest of the year. And everything is going to be narrowed down so much that if the event was $200, you're going to have to get an executive to sign off on that. But if it's under $100, the likelihood of you. So think in terms of, for retailers, the real challenge is the friction to the sale. Like, how many clicks do they have to get to choose the size, the make, the model, to this, to that, enter all this information in. So that's why Amazon's so smart, because it's like, you just swipe here, I got all your data, and I'm just going to send it to you. No problem. Yeah. So they eliminate the friction. It's the same thing with these events. How do we eliminate the friction for someone to attend and give us the revenue and give them the value, right? And if the price is too high, there's going to be extra friction that we haven't seen in the past. Like they've already budgeted in the past. They've already got it in the budget. They attend every year. Their boss knows this. Now it's different because he's got to go to his boss and he's got to ask him a question about that. And people are nervous right now, whether they're going to keep their jobs or not. They're not going to go bother their boss about, hey, can I have $200 so I can attend this virtual event? Boss can be like, aren't you doing your job? Like, aren't you keeping the company afloat? What do you need to do that for? So I think we need to step back. We are not the most important people in the world in Washington, D.C. We are not the most important people. We serve the most important people. And if we keep that mindset and focus, then our virtual events can be great. It can be, the value will be there, the extension will be there, and the revenue will be there. It's just that you can't be arrogant about how you approach it. And I'm not saying everybody is arrogant, but I see a lot of arrogance out there and a lot of people who have their head in the sand and don't really know what the environment is right now. And it's very concerning to me because I want to see associations succeed and I want to see people's grassroots programs flourish because ultimately that helps communities around the country. And if you have your head in the sand, then you can't help those people. So
before we wrap, I just want to both congratulate you, Andy, on your killer month podcast wise.
Oh yeah, what do we get?
Set some records.
That's right. Well, for that, part of it is we double dumped. So we started dumping instead of on Mondays, we would dump Mondays and then Wednesdays.
Andy took 2 dumps a month. It was
exactly.
But are you seeing that? Because I saw it in every association I work with. The numbers doubled, and the video for any video, the audio would be.
Yeah, I think it was based on this. Like we would get David Kahn, who's the CEO of Birkenstock, on to talk about what he's doing, and we would get this person on and that person on. And the great thing is, there's not one way to do business. Everybody does it differently. There's not one opinion that's right. Everybody has a different opinion or a different thing. So people are really hungry for, I'm doing this, what am I missing? And I think that's the value for everybody is like, if you can hear your competitor or even your friend or whatever it is, partners, talk about what they're doing and why they're doing it, you may not adopt it, but it makes your mental capacity to find the right way forward a lot. It gives the value that you need. So I think that's what it was. It wasn't that we doubled up or anything like that. I think it was we doubled down on quality.
You did. I agree.
So,
Cliff, the Shoe Carnival.
Yeah.
Great guy, and it's full of great information.
Yep. So
and a great guest too.
Yep. So the timeliness matters, the quality matters, but I think going forward, people looking at different platforms, just jump in the stream and swim. Pick what you need. Like we're developing we're building our own website. Blake's built websites for people too. I have reasons for doing it around cost and experience and things like that. But just pick something and jump in.
Yeah, I agree.
But think a little bit differently about what you're doing and why you're doing it and how long it is. And like I think the challenges we had, like I think Blake with the 4-person panel, I think is great. You can't mimic. I think we should all take a lesson.
But we've always done it that way.
Well, I think we should all take a lesson, and I'm not hammering him because actually I think it's his staffer's fault. But Joe Biden's virtual meeting that he had for the Tampa rally, where they tried to line up a band and a DJ, and then these people speaking and this, and it's like, well, this is how we do a physical event. It's like it doesn't translate into the digital space for the audience.
No, and another thing on that, and I know we got to go. We're still on time. Why did it need to be live?
Right, exactly. Does it need to be live?
The only reason something needs to be live is if you're going to take questions.
Right. So,
other than that, why they could have avoided all those problems. They could have run it live and pretended it was live.
Right.
They could have recorded and then just run it live on YouTube.
Right. Feature it.
Right.
Feature on YouTube. So,
but instead they had a disaster.
All right.
There you go.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to unpack in this. I hope it helps. We try to unbutton it as much as we can on this show because I feel like if you button it up too much, you can't think through things. Your tie's too tight, then there's no blood flow to the brain to figure out what the next thing is and the idea. But I think if you can just sit down and think things through on virtual events, or you can talk to Brian or you can talk to Blake, both software IT smart people on this stuff about what other people are doing and why.
There you go.
That's the out music. There you go.
Yeah.
So I just think for these events, like there's some tips and best practices, but there's no one thing for everybody. You got an event, you run it one way, somebody's gonna run a different way. But in a digital space, it's just a little bit different. You got to figure out your own flow, but you got to jump in at some point and start swimming.
All right, I'm cueing the music.
Go ahead, cue the music. Brian,
Do it.
thoughts?
Love it. I love the idea to start at the beginning. Like don't think about all the pieces and like this is how we've always done it. Think about why you've done it that way and why you're doing it this year and what you can get out of it and what people should get out of it and why people attend and all those other good questions. Answer those. The rest comes with it.
All right, so
Last
Spark
word?
Influence, humanfactor.net, Spark Influence.
.net.
I thought it was .net.
That's right.
And Advocacy Help Desk.
All right, folks. Thanks again for
.com.
watching. If we can give you some help, please let us know. I've been actually doing a lot of calls with grassroots pros and association professionals, just chatting and just they're smart people are asking really good questions and they're asking a lot of people to see what they're missing out on. And so if we can help, please let us know. Just drop us a line, advocacyhelpdesk.com. Subscribe to the podcast across every single audio platform. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. But if we can help as well and you really don't want to go alone, hire Blake. He's been doing it for a time.
Humanfactor.net. All right.
All right.
I'm going to lunch.
Until next time, be safe and keep advocating. We're out.